All right, everybody. Happy Friday and happy football season. It is here, but we are a hockey podcast. So we are going to be talking about some hockey, especially the Colorado Avalanche. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, along with my man Shaggy Von Doom. I am Chris Maselli, and on today's episode, we're going to have a little bit of fun with stats, and mainly stats that involve Wayne Gretzky and Nathan MacKinnon. Now, there's very few people that can catch Wayne Gretzky in anything. Alex Ovechkin hasn't a shot to do one of them, which nobody thought would ever happen. But just for fun, what would Nathan MacKinnon need to do average-wise for the next 13 seasons for him to be 40 years old to break some of these Wayne Gretzky records? They just show you how insane they are. We're going to talk about that. We have some listener questions to get to. And because it is opening day for football, we kind of were maybe taking a page from them. And what can the NHL do? We've kind of discussed this a little bit in the past, but we're going to discuss it again. What can the NHL do to kind of have this big spectacle for their opening night like the NHL does? All of that. It's going to be a fun Friday. Let's do it.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And for those of you who are listening through your iPod or Android or iPod, wow, they don't make those anymore.
Your Zune.
Yeah, your turn it sideways on the Zune, your iPhone, or listening in your car. You're not watching on YouTube. Our man, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, there is sporting none other than a Denver Broncos Tim Tebow jersey. I mean, I love that he converted. Let's, applaud for that he moved over to the good side. But going Tebow right off the bat. Didn't go Elway, didn't go TD, didn't go anybody back from that era. Maybe, even like Steve Atwater or Ed McCaffrey. You went Tebow, and you're wearing it in solidarity right now. That's a nice one.
Yeah, he actually, like, pulling the curtain back, like, everybody on social media knows I have a son with Down syndrome, and Tebow spends a lot of his time with the Down syndrome community, so real recognizes real.
Match made in heaven, right? Exactly. That's awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in on this Friday episode of Locked On Avalanche. Always appreciated that you make us your first listen of the day. Check us out on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, go to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com and follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live. All right. Like we said in the opening, we figured why not have some fun? And, Wayne Gretzky is the god. He is the great one. And when you really look at his stats, I mean, we're not breaking the mold here. I mean, we all know it's insane what he did over his career. But what's fun is what we're going to do and take Nathan MacKinnon, who is the Avs' best offensive powerhouse, he's their best offensive player. And we're going to kind of like look through kind of Gretzky's big stats. And we're going to assume Nathan MacKinnon plays another 13 seasons, which would take him to the age of 40. So we're just going to go an even number, 40 years old. What would he need to average in these different categories for those 13 years to pass Wayne Gretzky? Do you think it's going to be an easy go of it?
I honestly, with Gretzky's numbers that he posted there, you have to look at them, and like you mentioned Gretzky's numbers, like I kind of just laugh. It's everybody knows he just puts up just ridiculous numbers. And we're seeing, you mentioned Nathan MacKinnon being like our offensive powerhouse. It took him at least 3 or 4 years to get to that level. Right. And Gretzky seemed to be out of the womb putting up 90 goals a year. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Very interesting. I will save one that I guess could be possible to the end.
You're saying there's a chance.
Very, very outside. but maybe we shall see. But all right, we'll start this off with just straight goals. Obviously, Gretzky's record is 894. That could be broken by Alex Ovechkin. Remains to be seen. Nathan MacKinnon, as right now, has 242. So he needs 653 goals to pass Wayne Gretzky. Do you have any idea what that would need to average out to for the next 13 seasons?
For the rest of this stat breakdown, everybody realized I was homeschooled in Alabama, so the computer takes a minute to boot. But my
Okay.
goodness, like over the next 13 years to catch up with Gretzky, he's got to average at least 70, 80 goals a year.
No, it's not that much. I mean, it's a little bit lower, but it would be like 50.2. So 50.2 goals per season for the next 13 years, which is ridiculous considering Nathan MacKinnon's highest ever and for his career high for goals is 41. So he's never touched 50. So he would need to start now and do that for the rest of his career if he plays another 13 seasons. Which that's crazy. It's crazy.
Like,
and even when you think of that, then you start thinking of what Ovechkin is near, and you're like, good Lord, like, you just kind of you kind of look at that and you respect him a little bit more as if you don't already.
yeah, and it speaks to Gretzky, and like we talk about it all the time. Like the game has shifted to like skill and like specialist players, and like Gretzky in the '80s was putting up 92 goals in like a season. So for him to do that in his time frame, to where the equipment's changed, the players have changed, the style and the game has changed, they could do it. Sure.
Most goals in a season, Gretzky has a record of 92. And like I said, McKinnon's highest right now is 41. So he would need to double his highest total ever plus 10 goals. Plus 10 goals. 11 goals. Because that would bring him to 93. That's crazy. He needs to wrap your head around that. As much as we see Nathan MacKinnon scoring all the time, he would need to double his goal output plus another 11. Out of control.
We're just gonna have to shift the offensive mindset to just feed him the puck and let's just go with it.
Right.
All the time.
Now, when you get to assists, and we know the incredible stat when it comes to Wayne Gretzky, he has more assists than anybody has total points. So his total assists are 1,962. Nathan MacKinnon has 406. So he would need 1,557 assists to pass Gretzky. How many assists per season do you think that would be for the next 13 years?
Probably at least 90.
I'm just going to round up 0.3. It's essentially 120 assists per season that he would need over the course
on top of doubling his goal per year.
Well, that would, yeah, exactly. So he needs to double plus his goal output, and then he would be having 120 plus. So say he had, well, that was for most goals in a season. So say he had a season where he had 120 assists and then 93 goals. That's your second ever 200 point player in the NHL. Likely.
Sorry, Cale Makar.
Yeah,
we won't be talking about you anymore.
That's crazy. That's just absolutely ridiculous. You need 100. And again, I keep going back to, like, we see Nathan MacKinnon scoring just all the time. What's his highest ever for assists in a season?
Oh God, he's going to start this production going into a contract year too.
Yeah. So he had 58 assists 3 years in a row in 17, 18, 18, 19, and 19, 20. And then this last year he had 56. So he almost touched that again. Again, he needs to double it plus some. Bonkers. Playoff assists, Gretzky had 260. And Nathan MacKinnon right now is at 93. So he needs 168. So the way I kind of broke this down was his last 4 playoff appearances, Nathan MacKinnon. For assists, he's had 11, 7, 16, and 7. So let's say he has 10 assists for the next 10 postseasons. That won't even be enough. That'll still be short.
So you're saying we got to go back to the playoffs again?
Yeah, he would need another 68 after he. So it's just, I mean, you look at these again. It's nuts. It's nuts. For the heck of it, overall points, Gretzky at 2,856. Nathan MacKinnon right now is at 648. He needs 2,209 to pass Gretzky. I'm not even going to make you guess on that. He would need 170 points per year for the next 13 years, or each year of 13 years. 170 points for a guy that hasn't touched a century mark yet. Come close.
You don't even see those numbers today with the flashy names, like not just Nathan MacKinnon. So 170 points a year.
Yeah. And it's a different game now. You know what I mean? It's a different, I get all that. Points in a season, Gretzky had 215. That equates to about 2.6 points per game. 2.6 a game, every game, 82 games. Very tough to do. Here's one that's possible. If we're going to have any of these that are, it could happen if McKinnon just continues a really good play and the Avalanche continue to be a good team. Playoff goals. Gretzky's record is 122. McKinnon right now has 41. He's 81 behind. His last 4 playoffs, he's had 13, 8, 9, and 6. So again, if we're going off of 10 years, could he conceivably have 8 goals each playoff for the next 10 years? That would give him 80. That would tie him.
That one.
That's doable.
That's doable, especially with how this team's constructed.
Right.
You feel like this is not just a playoff team, but a deep playoff team for a while.
I mean, you say it's doable. I mean, obviously health comes into play. You have to, he has to be healthy through all of this. That goes without saying. The Avalanche need to be a good team, continue to be a good team, and make the playoffs and make deep runs.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the Stanley Cup every time, but, minimally second round, third round. You'd like to see second or third round at least, because he's a playoff guy, McKinnon. That one is, if you're going to say there's any record that is conceivable, it would be that. If he's 81 behind and he gets 10, like I said, in the last 4, he's done 13, 8, 9, and 6. So he's kind of around that 10 spot every time. And for measure, you're like, well, if he's got 41, where is, Ovechkin and Crosby?
Mm-hmm.
Crosby, for his playoff career, has 71, and Ovechkin for his playoff career has 72. So McKinnon, who's played a lot less playoff games than them, is not that far behind. He's like 30 goals behind them. He's maybe 3 postseasons behind them.
And they're aging out. And I don't feel like they're going to have any more numbers to tack on to that.
Not really. I mean, you'll get a few more, obviously. I mean, you look at Ovechkin in 17-18, he had 15 goals in the playoffs. So did Crosby in 08-09. But, they make the playoffs all the time, so they have a lot more to go on. But that one, possible.
I feel like that one's obtainable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to know for probably another 10 years minimally. But if there's one that you can kind of keep in the memory bank for a little bit, maybe it's that one. Maybe. We shall see.
Look out, Wayne Gretzky. We're coming for you.
We're coming after you, Wayne. Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Any other, because you can go to like NHL.com and look up the Gretzky stats. It's just a page that just goes on and on and on. All of this dude's records that he has. If there's any that stick out for anybody, not even if McKinnon can catch it, but it's fun to kind of just add up the numbers to see how far McKinnon is away from whatever record. Throw it up in the comments. Would love to see it.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to hear from Built Bar, and then we are going to get to a few listener questions. And then what can the NHL do to take a page out of the NFL and have a must-see opening night? But first, Built Bar and BuiltBar.com. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. I think that's a direct quote from our good friend Kyle Sullivan right there.
You're right.
He's a puff head. I think you're like a Stay Puffed.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you mentioned Built Bar, I was like, let me see what they got new. I have their Instagram saved.
It's like the morning routine. When you wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, shave, check built.com. See if they have a new flavor up. Like we said the other day, they had that maple bar flavor for BYU. Oh. Somebody made a comment in that show on YouTube saying like they live in that area and go, and it is everything it's cracked up to be. And it made me want it even more so.
Yeah.
I asked him, how can he send me one? I don't know if he's responded to that, but maybe the closest I'll get is the Built Cougar Bar. I think that might be it. So you have to go to built.com, try all the delicious Built Bar Puffs, try all the regular Built flavors. They're only 160 calories and a whopping 15 grams of protein. They taste great. They're great for you. Everything about them is fantastic. So go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off of your order. Once again, LOCKEDON15 for 15% off at built.com. All right. Always good to do some listener questions. So we had a few of them up over on Instagram, and you're wearing a jersey, so we'll start with that one. Someone flat out asked us, what's our favorite Avalanche jersey of all time? I went with, and we both did. I said, well, let's not put up their everyday jersey. We'll just go, third jerseys, one-off jerseys. What was your favorite?
It has to be the reverse retro from last year. Just incorporating everything Colorado, and the first time the Avalanche have acknowledged the Nordiques. So it just was the perfect storm for a perfect jersey, and they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely high up there for me. For me, I my favorite is the outdoor game against Detroit. And I remember checking how we were saying we check built.com every day. I remember just checking Google every single morning to see if the announcement was coming of what that jersey was going to be. And I remember they did it at Coors Field, obviously, because that's where the game was played. Landeskog was there, kind of fashioning it off. And it was, I love it. I love it. Some people don't like the huge numbers on the side, but I'm huge. I like that. I think that's a great touch. Obviously, they did that because they're playing in a baseball field. So people way back in the stands kind of want to know who's on the ice. But I like that look. I just like to see. To me, I love that. And it's one of those things where it's like, I want them to wear it again, but I also don't, because like the Nordiques one, the one-off just makes it that little bit more valuable.
Yeah. So and I don't even think you could buy the reverse retro now.
So people are saying that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go, black market, I'm sure you can do that. But I don't know if it's available on NHL.com anymore or NHLshop.com anymore. So this comes from a good friend of ours who shall remain nameless. Teams you are most wary of?
Teams that scare me right now. Carolina to a degree. Carolina to a degree. When it comes to the West, it's hard to make a case for a team in the West, but Carolina's starting to scare me. I know that was a YouTube comment the other day. If they could keep that team healthy, they might be a problem.
I got to see more for they're a great regular season team. What can you do in the playoffs? You made it a good distance last year, but you gotta, are they becoming like the Colorado Avalanche, where they can't get past a certain point. I don't know. We'll have to see. But they're a very good team. Can they put it all together? Possibly. For me, in the East, I think the Rangers are a very good team, and everyone wants to think that they're never going to win it. But Toronto is a very, very good team, and people think like, oh, the hex is real, and it's like, well, that stuff wears off. Go talk to the Boston Red Sox.
Once they move past that first round, I'll start taking them seriously. I'm not saying hex or curse or jinx or anything for Toronto.
Sure.
What, like you mentioned, like Carolina being a good regular season team, that's how I view Toronto. Like they could get it done in the regular season and put up great numbers, but when it comes to the playoffs, they fall apart. And once they can figure that out, then I'll start taking them seriously.
Well, it's very real. You know what I mean? Like they're a good team, but it's in their head now, and they can't deny that it isn't. And for the like the Avalanche got past it, they ended up winning it. I think they do. They have to get past the first round, and then they will feel no pressure the rest of the playoffs. None. So I think they can do it, but everything has gone wrong for them. And take your pick of a first round, but they're a good team. You can't deny that they're a good team. In the West, Calgary is a good team, and this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, on paper right now they haven't played a game together. The hockey season is so long that they'll figure it out. They'll get good cohesion, if not right off the bat, within the first month or two. They will be just fine. They're a scary good team. They really, really are. So them, and then within the division, we talked about this not that long ago. I still think St. Louis is a good team. And St. Louis is going to be hungry. They're a little bit ticked off at how they were kicked out last year by us. So I think those are two teams to watch in the West.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the St. Louis pick 1,000%.
All right. Any players on the chopping block going into camp? Which, no, I don't really think there's anybody, not at this point. And any players ready to make the jump to the NHL? So we kind of talked about this a little bit about, maybe players who could like step up, but maybe he's talking more of any of those Colorado Eagles that could kind of make the cut.
Sampo Ranta.
I'd love to see that.
I feel like he had a little bit last year. This just feels like, especially, and you mentioned like the chopping block.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is JT's put up or shut up year.
Yeah, that won't be now though. You know what I mean? Like he's asking any players going and chopping like into camp. So they're not going to get rid of him they're going to give him the opportunity for this year.
I feel like the magnifying glass is going to be on him all the way up to the trade deadline, even more than it was last year, where we talked about Berkey, Jost, and JT.
Mm-hmm.
Like JT, he's left. He's the only one left. The magnifying glass is on him. If he can't step up and get into that 2C, then what are you sticking around for? Like we could fill 3 and 4.
Well, I wonder if they give him the chance up until the trade deadline, and if it's just not working out, just put him back down in the bottom 6. I think they're happy with him down there, and then go find a trade, something to trade for to fill in that spot that if he's not pulling the weight for it, move him back down. But a team might want him as part of a trade package. And I think that would, I think the Avs would probably do that by then. But if nobody wants to pick him up in a trade, throw him back down in the bottom 6 where he's just fine down there.
Yeah, there's no current Avalanche player in danger of losing their job going into camp.
Not at this point. No, unless a massive trade comes around up to them and they can't say no to it. But that's not going to happen. For me, I definitely want to see Ben Myers, what he can do. We've talked about him after getting those few games at the end of last year was huge for him. Now he can go into this year with a different state of mind, not wondering what it's like to be out on the ice in the NHL. He's got a little bit of a taste. So interested to see what he does. And kind of how we're throwing around JT Compher, and it's kind of like put up or shut up. Maybe the same can be said for Martin Kaut.
Oh yeah,
so much was expected of him.
Yep.
And we thought a couple years ago when he finally got brought up, played a handful of games with them, looked okay, but they brought him. They sent him back down. I think he came up for injuries, and I can't remember for the life of me who was injured. But they eventually sent him back down, and he just has been marinating down there.
Yeah.
How you were talking about like Sampo Ranta, I'd like to see him definitely, but don't count him out for this this training camp. He might surprise some people.
It's
We'll
about
see.
time.
We'll see. And finally, player you despise the most to this day.
Jordan Bennington.
Why is that?
Oh, I just don't like the Blues. No, he does not make a
Yeah,
case for why you should like him unless you're a Blues fan, and even he makes it hard for Blues fans to like him.
yeah.
So,
And it's not even, things that he's done against the Avalanche. It's just, if you're just watching morning highlights and it's the St. Louis Blues, you're kind of watching to see, like, hey, did Jordan Binnington do anything stupid today? So it doesn't even have to be against the Avs. It's kind of why, like, you hate guys like Brad Marchand.
yeah,
Like, we see him twice a year, but you see all the knucklehead things that he does throughout a year, and you're just like, I can't root for this guy.
you can laugh at Marchand when Bennington's going after Devin Dubnyk, for goodness sake. You're like, what are you trying to prove here? Like, what are you winning here? Like,
Yeah,
you could kind of see the mind games Marchand's
right,
playing, and
exactly.
you could kind of like laugh and be like, okay, if that's how he's got to play the game. But Bennington just goes off his rocker and throws water bottles and throws sticks and
It's
acts
true.
like whines and
He acts
cries.
like
Like,
a
there's
child.
no
Yeah.
forgiving.
Nope. He acts like a child. Absolutely. For me, I just will never, for the rest of my days living, will be able to forgive Todd Bertuzzi. What
Nor
he
should
did,
you.
what he did to Steve Moore, just completely inappropriate, completely uncalled for.
Yeah.
You when you do something like that, intentional, and that ends a guy's career, you get zero sympathy from me.
Yep.
If something happens where you're making a hard play and that ends a guy's career, you don't like to see it, but you were making a hockey play or you're making a football
Yep.
play, whatever the sport is. To do what he did is cowardly.
Yeah.
For so many reasons. So yeah, there's no love there for Todd Bertuzzi whatsoever.
Never will be.
Never will be. All right. Last thing we want to get to is what the NHL could do, and kind of pulling from the NFL and seeing as it's their opening day on Thursday, which is kind of new. They've been doing it for, I don't know, over a decade, but they have the Super Bowl winning team play Thursday night. Thursday night has now become a full 18-week thing for the NFL. You never got Thursday games until Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
In the past. So now, like, the NFL wanted themselves to be a league where you get it more than just Sunday and one game on Monday, and they threw in the Thursday thing. Players seem to hate it. I don't think the NFL really cares because they're always going to get viewers. But the opening week, they throw the Super Bowl champion on against a really good team. It's not just a puff game for the Stanley Cup for the Super Bowl winning team to start the year 1-0, as you were seeing and we're recording this as the game is going on. But it's the Bills and the Rams. So everybody's eyes are on that, except for us because we're recording because hockey's better. It kind of makes you think, like, can the NHL do anything like that to get a bunch of eyes on opening night puck drop? I got some thoughts, and I know you do.
I have two solutions as well.
Mm-hmm.
One, kind of copying this method, putting your Stanley Cup champion, move the Winter Classic or a outdoor game to your first game.
I remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
Put your Stanley Cup champion outdoors against put the first team eliminated in the East. And just make it a spectacle. Like, hockey's on, fanfare, outdoors, cool environment. Like, get going that way. Show off your champion and kind of show off your sport a little bit and make it a spectacle. Because, come on, who wants to watch Von Miller Like, come on, Broncos country, we're in this together right now. Who wants to watch Von Miller right now? We just watched the Rams and the Bills, for goodness sake, because it's football. It's on.
Right.
Like let's pimp the game a little bit. Like, put the Stanley Cup champion out there outside. I mean, it doesn't go wrong. You're going to get eyeballs on that.
I think it's a good idea. My only worry with that is because it's early October, depending on where that team if it's Florida, you can't really do that. You can't put an outdoor game say Tampa won. You can't start a opening game in Tampa in October outdoors. I mean, if you had it at a neutral site somewhere up north, okay.
They have the Hall of Fame game for preseason football outside the Hall of Fame. Go to Toronto, right outside the Hockey Hall of Fame. Hey, we actually have a Hall of Fame. We don't really talk about that much. Have it right there.
Yeah, maybe have it at the same location every year.
Yep.
Have it in Canada somewhere every year. This is where the first two teams are opening up the season. You're gonna get some angry fans, like home fan bases, because that's you're messing with season tickets and stuff like that when you do stuff like that. But I think the NHL is in a position to be like, we need viewership more than anything. I'm sorry. Yep. It probably won't fly because even that home team is gonna want that in front of their home fans. It's tough. It's a tough scenario, but it's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's an idea. It's outside the box. You'd have to really kind of figure out how it would work and the logistics of it, but it's something. It's thinking outside the box. What should happen is just like the NFL is having one game, the NHL should have one game.
Yeah.
The NHL should have one game, and it should be the Stanley Cup champion against someone. If you just want a rematch of the Stanley Cup, do that. But it's kind of annoying me that opening night is a double header with the Avalanche, the second game that starts on the East Coast at 9:30. I have issues with that. Yeah. I think it's the Capitals and the Bruins, I think, are the first game. Why? Why is that your opener? Explain it to me, other than Boston's an original six team. And I always use air quotes when I say original six, because don't get me going on that, because they're not original six. But why do the Stanley Cup champions get bumped to the later time slot in opening day? I don't get that, because 9:30 is when the coverage starts. That's going to be a half hour minimum, 45-minute, maybe even an hour production to raise the banner, to have all of everything going on, all the fanfare that day. Game's not going to start till 10:30 on the East Coast. And for the East Coast fans, for the Avalanche, that's annoying.
Preaching to the choir here, brother.
Oh, I know that. But people just watched a Stanley Cup, and just like they just watched the last memory that they have of their sport is the Rams winning a Super Bowl. It's a no-brainer to put them on for the opening week when there's only one game on. Why the NHL doesn't do that, I have no idea.
And the second idea I had, you're going to have to close your ears, Chris, because it dabbles with the original six, quote unquote. Watching
go ahead.
Watching the game tonight between the Rams and the Bills, I was like, I just saw the Rams. Like, my last vision of football was the Rams, and now I'm seeing them as the first. So I'm just like, like, even as not a Rams fan, everybody else is like, Start it with a hockey day. Kick off your season and just have 3 games between the quote unquote original 6, whatever rotation you want to do, and just have a all day thing.
That would be fine. I have my issues with calling it the original 6, but I understand what that means to the NHL, and that is, you can sell that.
Yeah.
So that I wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Not at all.
That's your opening night. Just call it Hockey Day in America, or opening day, and then just have 3 original 6 games between the 6 teams. Let them play.
That's fine. That's completely fine. But you need to do something. Like you have Washington and Boston, whatever. That's just a game. And then you have the Avalanche and the Blackhawks.
Still doesn't make sense.
Going to be one of the bottom 2 teams in the league. I don't think there's anybody that really wants to tune in that's not an Avalanche fan or a Blackhawks fan to watch that game.
Nope.
And if they do, they're tuning in to see the banner go up, and they're probably going to tune out.
Yep.
But if you put, like you said, do the original 6 thing, or if you do something with the team that won the Stanley Cup, if you put them back against the Stanley Cup, the team that they faced in the Stanley Cup, I think I know it'd be like, oh, they just played. It's like, but you'd get to see that team that lost come out and try to avenge that.
Yeah,
Although
and with that
game.
And with that original 6 opening day, you get your hockey fix, like hockey's back, baby. And then here comes the rematch of the Stanley Cup the next day. Yeah. And then it's fresh and you're like, oh yeah, let's see how this goes. And it keeps building on it throughout the year because 82 games, you got to keep that interest going somehow.
Yeah. The original 6 games would set the tone, like season's back. And then you'd almost have like 2 opening nights like them. And you can rotate those games. So you're not playing, it wouldn't be the Rangers and the Canadians like every year.
Nope.
You can maneuver them around.
Yep.
I think that's a very smart idea.
It's the equivalent of a Thursday, Sunday NFL opener.
Yeah. I like it. What do you guys got? Throw them out in the comments because I think having an opening day that gets people excited across the fan bases, like across the league's fan bases, would be huge. So throw them out there in the comment section. What do you got? All right, it's going to wrap it up for today and for this week, and another week closer to opening day.
Preseason is right around the corner.
Right around the corner. And they have that rookie camp that the has released all the rosters for that. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. But until then, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the first week of the NFL. You got to wait an extra day with the Broncos on Monday night, but I think we're kind of used to that. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. And thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. And this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you next week.